Halfway through the shortest season in recent history, every heat counts at the Lamb Weston Columbia Cup. The third stop on the unlimited hydroplane circuit, each team is competing for one of 10 coveted spots in the UIM World Championship this November. Although much of the buzz this season has circled around the younger drivers who have turned in impressive performances, so far, it's the veterans who have proven themselves. Steve David drove the U1 Oboy Oberto to an impressive victory in the season opener at the Lucas Oil Indiana Governor's Cup in Madison, Indiana. He won last year's Lamb Weston Columbia Cup and is hungry for a repeat. Dave Vilwalk logged his 60th career win and 8th Gold Cup championship in Detroit in the U96. A victory this weekend would tie Vilwalk with Chip Hanauer and put him one win away from Bill Muncie's record. A field of 11 unlimited hydroplanes is expected to compete, and given the historically fast Columbia River course and the speeds of the world's fastest race boats so far this season, it should be one of the fastest fleets in the history of the event. This broadcast of the 2009 Lamb Weston Columbia Cup is brought to you by Coldwell Banker Tomlinson Associated Brokers.
Heat 1A was run in the heat of the day, 4 o'clock Saturday, and here is the way things went in Heat 1A.
We are 3 minutes away from the start of Thompson Hill Cellars Unlimited Heat 1A of the 2010 Lamb Weston Columbia Cup. Lanes were chosen by the fastest qualifier speed in each heat. In lane 1, it will be the U1 Oboy Oberto. In lane 2, the U17 Miss Red Dot. In lane number 3, the Miss Albert Lee Appliance U21. FormulaBoats.com, the U5 will be in lane 4. In lane 5, Matrix Systems, the U22. And on the outside, the U57, FormulaBoats.com. Steve Montgomery, let's take a look at the drivers in this heat.
Okay. Taking a look right there at Steve David, our second fastest qualifier, a tick behind Dave Vilwalk in the U96 Spirit of Qatar. He will not race Vilwalk here, which means he won't gain or lose points on him depending on what Vilwalk does in Heat 1B. And there comes our defending Columbia Cup and National High Point champion.
Nate Brown cutting through onto the backstretch around through the Blue Bridge turn. He will be in lane number 2. At red, white, blue, and yellow, U17 Miss Red Dot with a little bit of an unusual air scoop. Steve Montgomery.
Nate Brown surprised us all by qualifying as high as he did. He'll have lane 2 as a result of that. This boat, Brian Perkins, the U21 Miss Albert Lee Appliance, a new ride for that team, expecting great things, and this could be the weekend that young Brian and that team break out.
Lane 4 will go to the U5, FormulaBoats.com. 2 FormulaBoats.com boats out of Ted Porter's stable of boats in this particular heat. The U5 will be in lane number 4, driven by Jeff Bernard.
The U5 and the U57, very similar on the water. You'll have a little trouble, I'm sure, as we will, telling them apart. The U5 runs the saltwater snorkel, the long snout over the driver, and has some white on the tail. Mark Evans in the 57 looks a little different. We'll talk about that when we see him. Right now we see Nate Brown moving up the backstretch into position. You saw him go by the white boat. That's Mike Webster in the U22 Matrix Systems, and now we're settling into our lanes with 27 seconds left on the clock, about a half a lap to go around to the start. Mark Allen.
We're looking at the FormulaBoats.com U5 as he comes up through traffic. He will be in lane number 4. Outside of him will be the Matrix Systems, mostly white boat with a red stripe down the center from side to side. They come around Steve Montgomery to take the start with 7 seconds left.
Nate Brown out ahead of the field of the U17. He may be early. 3, 2, 1, 0. No, Nate is right on time. He made a great start. It's back a half a rooster tail to Steve David in second place on the inside. Mark Evans way on the outside in lane 6 also made a great start.
3 boats side by side, but it's not exactly lanes 1, 2, and 3 as they go to the Blue Bridge turn first time around. It is Nate Brown, but right beside him is Steve David in the Oh Boy Alberto. They come off that turn almost dead even. Steve David had to back off just a little bit. Your two leaders up the backstretch. On the inside, Steve David flying the boat, and on the outside of him is Nate Brown.
Now watch this acceleration test. On the inside, Steve David seems to have a little more in the U1 as he motors by Nate Brown in the U17. I already mixed them up. The red boats, it was the 5 that made the great start, not Mark Evans in the 57. We have a penalty called already on the the U5 lost a prop, we understand. Okay, the U5 is floating down by the Blue Bridge. He did not complete the first lap. Here's our leader at the end of lap 1, Steve David, being chased by Nate Brown, first and second after 1 lap.
And you could just see the separation between them, a full rooster tail. Steve David across the line at the end of lap number 1, and then it's Nate Brown as they head down to the Blue Bridge turn for lap number 2. Brian Perkins crosses the line in 3rd place at the end of lap number 1.
4th place boat just crossing start finish now is Mike Webster. You're looking at Steve David coming out of the first turn for the 2nd time. He's our leader in the U1 Oh Boy Alberto. Nate Brown continuing to give chase, but he's back a rooster tail now as they swing onto the backstretch. And you can see Mark Evans in your foreground just came by in the 57. That's the red boat that is still running. His teammate, the U5 Formula Boats, lost a prop, we understand. We hope he didn't damage the boat. Our leaders are into the west turn one more time.
Yep, and there's about a 2 rooster tail lead, make it maybe a 3 rooster tail lead for Steve David as you see him negotiating turn number 2 up at the west end of our race course. Wide swing. Nate Brown will have to go around. You can see he's just outside of Steve David's wake, but a long lead for Steve David as he crosses the finish line at the end of lap 2. This is the white flag lap one more time around in our preliminary Heat 1A.
Boy, Steve David has a big lead, but he's not running easy. You saw him flying the boat down the front stretch, not wanting Nate Brown to gain on him. He has less than a lap to go now to the checkered flag here in 1A. Into the turn, boat handling very nicely. Nate continuing to pursue, but probably by now has settled back into 2nd place kind of thinking. Take the 300 points and live to race tomorrow. There's your leader, Mark, onto the backstretch for the final time.
Steve David up the backstretch, and the defending national champion and our defending Columbia Cup champion, the U1 Oh Boy Alberto. You see the distance between Nate Brown in 2nd place, and there's Nate flying up the backstretch between him and Steve David way out in front of him, and it's then a long ways back to the 3rd place boat, which is Brian Perkins in the Miss Albert Lee Appliance, the U21.
One more turn and a quarter of a lap to go for our leader, Steve David. Out of Lighthouse Point, Florida, he'll bring the U1 Oh Boy Alberto, the one significant of the National High Point Championship. They won last season, and here is the checkered flag for Steve David and the Oh Boy Alberto, winners of Heat 1A. And it's back quite a ways now to Nate Brown, who finishes now in the U17 Miss Red Dot. He'll take the 300 points. That's a good start to his weekend. Brian Perkins is back a couple of more rooster tails, and he's going to come by in 3rd place in the white and green Miss Albert Lee Appliance and take 3rd place points. We are going to score 4th and 5th place here as the U22 Mike Webster's boat is out of the final turn, headed for start finish. He'll come by in 4th place, and Mark Evans in the U57 is going to trail him and pick up 5th place points. There's your 4th place finisher out of Reading, Pennsylvania, Mike Webster in the U22. And here comes Grandpa Mark Evans. Been called all kinds of names since coming out of semi-retirement, has won this race 3 times, has 10 victories in unlimited hydroplane racing, being treated like a rookie here, Mark, because it's been a couple of years since he raced. He had to re-qualify as a driver.
Yep, and I think with this set of laps, he may just well have done that. He had a few more laps to go, but they'll let him get out and go racing. Unofficially, the order of finish for Heat 1A, the U1 Oh Boy Alberto in 1st, the U17 Miss Red Dot in 2nd, 3rd place to Brian Perkins in the U21, 4th place to the U22 Matrix Systems and Mike Webster, and the U57 in 5th spot with Mark Evans in the FormulaBoats.com. That's how they finished in Heat 1A.
And if you're keeping score at home, give Steve David 400 points, 300 for Nate Brown, 225 for Brian Perkins, 169 for Mark Webster, 127 for Mark Evans. Did not finish for Jeff Bernard in Heat 1A.
Yeah, we're here with Steve David. We're actually inside the U1 Oberto's truck right now. Let's just take a look at some of the things around in the truck. You can see some of the Oberto fans, letters up here on the wall right here. This is really, we call it the brain center, if we can, of the Oberto. It's kind of how they plan their weekend, get things done. Kind of explain what we got on these computers right over here.
Sure. Well, it'd be a brain center, except I'm here, so we're just going to call it the center right now. But what you're looking at on this computer is all of our runs we record on a computer and try to figure out what's the best setup for the particular heat that we're going to be in. And so we're looking at propellers, N2s, what have you. And then on this one, we're keeping a record of every propeller we run because these propellers have a limited life cycle, about 120 to 140 laps. So we keep a record, and Mike and the team are just figuring out what is that setup we need for each heat so we can ultimately get to the final and win this thing again.
Yeah, talk about the second heat, really a crazy draw. It's you and Dave, right, kind of matching up in that second heat.
Yeah, it sure looks like a kind of a preliminary to the final, doesn't it? We got some really hot guys on the inside, and then we got myself in lane 4 and Dave in 5. So that's going to be a real barn burner because I'm sure he and I are both geared for just top in and hoping that we can both pass the guys on the inside. And we need to beat them. We're in a national championship points race. Right now we're still leading, but we need to beat them in this heat.
There you go. Won the Columbia Cup 2 years in a row, hoping to make it 3. For now, with Steve David, I'm Patrick Nolan. Back to you guys.
As is widely known at this time, Heat 1B did not go off as planned. We were not able to get all 3 laps into the book. We did have an incident involving Dr. Ken Muscatel and the U25. Let's take a look back now at what did happen yesterday in Heat 1B.
We are 3 minutes away from the start of the Thompson Hill Cellars Heat 1B of the 2010 Lamb Weston Columbia Cup. And here's who will be in Heat 1B. Drivers chose their lanes based on fastest qualifying time. The U96 Spirit of Qatar in lane number 1. In lane number 2, it'll be the U7 Graham Trucking. In lane number 3, Superior Racing, the U25. The Spirit of Detroit U13 in lane number 4. The U100 Fleury Auto Parts in lane 5. And on the outside, it'll be the U37 Miss Peters and May. Steve Montgomery, let's take a look at the drivers.
Dave Villwalk, our fastest qualifier, will have to score a victory here from lane 1 to keep pace with Steve David. He came into this event 198 points behind the defending national high point champion, and he needs 400 here to match what Steve David did in Heat 1A. And there is the newly numbered and named Spirit of Qatar. J. Michael Kelly, having a fine season in the U7 Graham Trucking, will be in lane 2. And he has run very well back east. We'll see what he has here for this. He's been the most successful of the 3 Formula boats so far this year. Dr. Ken Muscatel, surprisingly quick in qualifying, will be in lane 3. Cal Phipps, the rookie, in the U13 Spirit of Detroit, will come from lane 4. And Greg Hopp, the veteran, out in lane 5 in the U100, the Fleury Auto and Truck Parts. John Zimmerman, the substitute driver in the substitute boat, the U37 Miss Peters and May, will be way on the outside. That's a very bright boat. It's blue and white with some of that neon chartreuse as well. We'll be able to spot that one for you. Now you see boats beginning to score up, find their lanes, and figure out how they're going to get around to start-finish right on time in about 1 minute and 20 seconds.
Looking at the Miss Peters in May, a substitute boat from a boat that crashed, the original boat, their main hull crashed in Detroit, and they have had this boat just exactly a week ago today. Picked up a boat on lease from Fred Leland, put some of those colors in, the Peters in May colors of the U37, and installed John Zimmerman as a driver. He is a rookie on the Unlimited Hydroplane Tour this year. You're looking now at J. Michael Kelly, and up beside him goes Greg Hopp on the outside.
J. Michael Kelly will be in lane 2. Dave Villwalk in the U96 Spirit of Qatar has lane 1, but he's back quite a ways from the 4 boats that are leading right now, planning to time it very well, make a running start. We'll see him go by them, I'm sure, up in the turn. Now Kelly drops back just a little bit. The dark boat, left side of your picture, that was Ken Muscatel, and there's Villwalk, the Spirit of Qatar, closing up now on the inside. He's going to pull up beside J. Michael Kelly. He'll have the short way around this turn, watching and hearing from his radio man on the tower near us here exactly where he is on the clock. All 6 boats now turning toward us. What a beautiful sight. The lanes look good. Oh, a little bit of squirreling around there by Cal Phipps in the middle of the field. Here comes the start. Villwalk very fast on the inside.
They're early.
If he's timed it well, he may be early.
Nope, they're very, very close. But it was Vilwalk across the line. They'll have to take a look at that right as the clock kicked down to 0. It looks like a good start, too. Dave Vilwalk leads him down the front straightaway. We had Greg Hopp move over a little bit coming off the turn. That's what caused Cal Phipps to turn left. But now everybody turns left at the Blue Bridge turn, and it is Dave Vilwalk in the U96 Spirit of Qatar that leads him off the turn.
Boy, Dave Vilwalk looked like he was going to be early, and apparently he got there just in time to make a legal start. Now, look at the boat speed out front. The U96 Spirit of Qatar pulling away from the field. Second place right now is Cal Phipps in that yellow and green Spirit of Detroit. A good race on the inside for third and fourth with Ken Muscatel and G. Michael Kelly.
Kelly is pulling up on Muscatel as they come to the turn 3 times around. This will be turn number 2 on our first lap. Dave Vilwalk leads him through the turn, but everybody is following him. He's got about a 2 or 3 rooster tail lead as you see him come off the turn. And then you see Cal Phipps on the outside, but Kelly right next to him on the inside, and in between them is Dr. Ken Muscatel. Dave Vilwalk flies the boat as he comes down to the Blue Bridge turn at the end of lap number 1.
Coming right at you, that's your leader, Dave Vilwalk, the U96 Spirit of Qatar. There is a great race for second, third, and fourth right behind him. We'll pick them up as they come into the turn. Vilwalk out ahead now in pretty good shape. Right behind him, Cal Phipps is doing a great job, the rookie in the Spirit of Detroit, but now he loses second place to J. Michael Kelly, who had gone to the inside. Here they come off the exit pin. We got a great race back in second place. We're looking at the leader, Dave Vilwalk, the Spirit of Qatar, way out ahead.
But dead to deck behind them, halfway up the back stretch,
there
2 boats. You can see 2 boats there, just a little bit of that lime green and lime yellow boat. That's the 13th Spirit of Detroit, and they are absolutely dead even coming to turn number 2. Dave Vilwalk with a big lead. Now Cal Phipps drops back. He's got a little farther to go as they come off the turn and head down to the end of lap number 2. Will be very close.
Here's our leader, Dave Vilwalk, completing another lap well out ahead. J. Michael Kelly flying the U7 a little bit as he comes across in second place. Cal Phipps still very fast in the yellow and green Spirit of Detroit, and Ken Muscatel has moved over to the inside. He's going to try to make up some ground on Cal Phipps. Our first turn camera shows you the leader thundering into that turn, and just that quickly he is out of it and headed up the Pasco side.
This is the white flag lap last time around, and Dave Vilwalk, as he has done in many of the heats he's run in so far this year at Madison and Detroit 2 weeks ago, running away from everybody else. He has about a 4, 5, 6 boat length and 6 rooster tail lead over J. Michael Kelly, and then it's back to Cal Phipps. So we're watching our leader.
And here's a problem. Ken Muscatel dead in the first turn. He is in a racing lane. The purple U25 stopped very suddenly in a big spray. The race is being stopped at this point. Dave Vilwalk was declared the winner. Now, here's a replay. You see a couple of boats go by. There's Cal Phipps and J. Michael Kelly. Now, watch the left side of your picture. All that spray and the pieces flying. Ken Muscatel came into that turn on the inside, hit a hole left by the leaders. The boat hooked violently. You saw pieces fly off of it. And then we saw Ken floating in the racing lane. The rescue team on its way. The heat was stopped at that point. There goes the U37, John Zimmerman, avoiding the incident. He headed down for the Blue Bridge. That was yesterday, and this is the way Heat 1B ended, with Dr. Ken Muscatel's boat badly broken. Mark, it's going to be a race for this team to get that boat fixed in 2 weeks for the race in Seattle.
Well, they are lucky because they do have a week off. That's not usually the case, so they've got a week off, and Ken talked to him last night, said he thinks the boat can be ready for Seattle 2 weeks from now, but you're looking at the damage on that boat as it was lifted out of the water yesterday afternoon. What happened as Ken came down on the right side of that boat is the bottom of that sponson and just behind it delaminated completely, and then the water pressure hydraulic to the deck that you can see on top of the sponson there completely off and took a big chunk, almost like somebody took a bite out of that boat on the right hand side, Steve.
It was a very violent spin. There has been talk in the media about the boat rolling or flipping. It really didn't. It just dug the left sponson in, brought the right one around so hard, and then landed on the right side and broke it up like this.
I think we can take a look at it. There it is again.
So you see a couple of boats go through the turn. Now they leave a big hole for the doctor, who comes around in lane 1 right there. We see the big splash. We see pieces flying, and at that point the race is over. They fired the red flares, declared Dave Vilwalk the winner. Of course, he was well out ahead. The boat taken back to the dock, and you saw the damage that was sustained. It's severe. They will replace the right side outside of that boat, hopefully in time for the next race. So this is the way Heat 1B ended, Mark Allen.
Well, the Spirit of Qatar, Dave Villwock, first place. You could see the speed that he had on the rest of the field. He kind of ran away from them, and that's been pretty much the story this year with the U96. Graham Trucking, J. Michael Kelly, the U7 finishing second. Did not finish, obviously, for Dr. Ken Muscatel, so third place went to Cal Phipps in the U13 Spirit of Detroit. Mr. Hop won U100, Fleury Auto Parts, fifth place, and John Zimmerman, a rookie, the U37, finished in fourth place. So we got him flipped the other way there. Actually, Greg finished fifth, but John actually did a pretty good job of avoiding that accident, Steve. He had to come. These boats don't want to turn right when you've got a skid fin hooked in there, and he made a little bit of a right turn to avoid that accident. Very, very nice driving.
So a little more excitement than we wanted in Heat 1B. It cost us a boat. Dr. Ken Muscatel running perhaps the best I have ever seen him in his many, many years. Unfortunately, his weekend is finished, but we will have great racing later on.
Well, we are about 2 minutes away from the 5-minute gun, Scott and Christine, for Conover Insurance Heat 2A. We talked about it, Steve Montgomery, a little earlier. This is kind of an interesting story, the way the heats flip in terms of lane choice. And we'll take a look at the boats that are in Heat 2A. Then we'll kind of talk about how we found these guys in these particular lanes.
Our winners from yesterday have to go to the outside in the draw. 2A and 2B are often some of our most exciting races of the day. Now, when you look at this field for Heat 2A, remember the two top qualifiers are in 2B. They are not in this heat. The fastest qualifier here was Nate Brown in the U17 Miss Red Dot. He'll be in lane 4. To his left, Cal Phipps, that yellow and green Spirit of Detroit, and Brian Perkins in the new green and white Miss Albert Lee Appliance, equally fast. So it looks like a 3-boat race, Mark, between those three. And then you have John Zimmerman in lane 1 and in the U37 Peters and May. Last year's Rookie of the Year, Mike Webster in the Matrix Systems U22 out in lane 5. And Mark Evans needs one more lap to be a qualified driver this year. He'll get it here, but he'll do it out in lane 6. We wouldn't expect him to be much of a factor in the race.
They let him across the line yesterday in Heat 1A, so we'll have to see. But we're looking at Brian Perkins in the Miss Albert Lee Appliance heading out of the pits right now. In 2B, we've got the two fastest qualifiers. We have the defending Columbia Cup champion 2 years, Stephen David, going for a three-peat. Dave Villwock in the Spirit of Qatar. So we've got a couple of heats that are fairly evenly balanced at this point.
And the fact that Steve David and Dave Villwock have to come from lanes 5 and 6 in 2B, that is something you don't want to miss. So stay around for 2B. But in the meantime, we have a very evenly matched field here in 2A. You need to keep an eye on lanes 2, 3, and 4. Perkins, Phipps, and Brown. One of those three should win this thing, and the start is going to be huge. Nate Brown coming down the front straightaway right now. He's going to be in lane 4, Mark. If he can get around the two guys to his left, he'll win this thing, but that's not going to be easy to do.
Nope, it's not, and from lane 4, it's very difficult to win just about anything. Lime green and lemon yellow Cal Phipps in the U13 Spirit of Detroit.
Boy, Cal has really looked good this year in that boat. He's an experienced limited driver. He really drives that thing hard. He's very, very fast. Cal could easily be a big factor here in this heat.
Just about 4.5 minutes away from the start. The lanes are already assigned, so there's no fighting for lanes. We will take a break, and we'll be right back with Heat 2A for Conover Insurance.
3 minutes and 18 seconds to the start of Heat 2A. You're looking at John Zimmerman. Rookie driver, did an outstanding job driving with Ken Muscatel in the Eastern races. He was asked to replace J.W. Myers, who was injured when the original U37 was nearly destroyed completely in Detroit. John steps into a replacement boat. Look at this great shot from overhead now, as you see a couple of boats going through the Blue Bridge turn. That's something we haven't had before here in the Tri-Cities. That'll be great to see, because we have to try to get this field through the first turn cleanly, Mark, and then see who is the first boat onto the backstretch.
Well, that'll be a great shot for us to take a look at. You were looking at Brian Perkins going through the turn on the inside from the overhead, and right now you're looking at John Zimmerman on the inside, and I can't quite tell who it is that's on the outside. He's right in back of him. I think that's Mike Webster in the U22 Matrix Systems. We're coming up to 2 minutes and 25 seconds away from the start.
And there's a look at an old friend. Mark Evans did a couple of years with me in the ESPN booth. We had some great times after he retired after a devastating crash in Detroit, which pretty much ended his driving career as far as we knew. But here he is qualifying again to drive an Unlimited, and we're glad to have him back.
He's gonna have to write a new chapter in his book.
Exactly, or maybe write another book. You're looking at two boats going up the backstretch, and they will be starting in lanes 2 and 3. That's Brian Perkins in the green and white Miss Albert Lee Appliance. Nate Brown swinging out around him will be in lane 4. Here's Cal Phipps. He'll actually be in lane 3. We expect the race to come from lanes 2, 3, and 4. Cal Phipps, who you're looking at, certainly one of the contenders. You're going to see Nate Brown coming by him in the U-17. That was him that left the rooster tail. And then the 21 went by, the 37 cutting through the infield with about 1 minute and 30 seconds to go. Probably on their last time around the race course. We have boats all over the front stretch right now. Mike Webster will be out in lane 5. He's coming down the front chute. A look at the last year's Rookie of the Year from Reading, Pennsylvania. Mark Evans following him. They'll swing on to the backstretch mark, and we should see them forming up, slowing down a little bit now at the 1 minute and 10-second mark right there.
Yep, and we got a bunch of boats going through the Blue Bridge turn. Nate Brown, as you can see in the upper right-hand corner of your picture, is all the way to the Unlimited Lights turn. He'll cut through the infield. He either thought he was real early or he just decided he's going to take another cut through the course, but the rest of the boats, as you can see on the backstretch right there, Nate Brown went by in the front, and then the guys, rest of them on the backstretch already, so Nate's going to have to hot-foot it up here to get up with the rest of the guys and make a clean start. 42 seconds.
Looking at the boats on the backstretch, John Zimmerman where he should be in lane 1. Now he has boats coming up behind him, Mike Webster and Mark Evans in the red boat. The boats in lanes 3 and 4 are settled in. That's Brian Perkins in the U-21 Albert Lee Appliance. He's in lane 2 just to the right of Zimmerman. Way out ahead is Mike Webster now. He's going to have to slow down. We have 21 seconds to go to the start of this what should be a very exciting heat of racing. Now they swing toward us. Nate Brown has some catching up to do. One of our favorites may be out of position here. Nate Brown did not work the clock well. He is not going to make a good start. Coming down to the start now, Brian Perkins on the inside looks good. So does Cal Phipps beside him, and it's going to be Phipps leading him across the line. It looked like a good start, Mark, and it was.
It does look like a good start. Phipps just about a bow ahead of Mike Webster, and right there with him was Brian Perkins on the inside of him, and John Zimmerman in lane number 1, but he was a little ways back. We'll see as they go through turn number 1. The green and blue boat you see right there, that's going to be Brian Perkins, and he has already almost a full rooster tail lead. Cal Phipps is hidden in the rooster tail of Brian Perkins, and then third place right now is the Peters and May.
Great shot from overhead as you see Perkins leading him up the backstretch. Phipps made a great start, but Perkins was 1 lane to his left, used that advantage to get through the turn first, and he is the leader now. But Cal Phipps is driving the U-13 very, very hard. We have a problem down in the turn. Nate Brown has gone dead in the Blue Bridge turn. There were problems in the U-17. Nate did not make a good start. We'll see if we're able to continue this heat with Nate floating down there. We see some smoke coming off the 17. Meanwhile, our leaders are coming around to finish lap 1. Brian Perkins in the U-21 Miss Albert Lee Appliance, and he's pursued by Cal Phipps in the U-13 Spirit of Detroit.
And Cal Phipps is closing up on Brian Perkins as they head down to the Blue Bridge turn. Third across the line was John Zimmerman. You saw him, and Brian gets the boat a little bit loose as they head to the Blue Bridge turn. They're going to have to know where Nate Brown is. I think he's out of harm's way. He's way out to the outside as you look at Brian Perkins get a couple of bumps as he goes through the Blue Bridge turn, but he's off the turn first. Cal Phipps hot-footing it right behind him off the turn, and then it's John Zimmerman.
Nate Brown was able to apply a little bit of power to the U-17 and get it out of the way, fortunately, before the boats came through there. Still have a good boat race on the backstretch. The green and white boat, that's the new U-21 Miss Albert Lee Appliance, showing them the short way around the race course, but Cal Phipps off to his right just as fast. The only advantage Perkins has, Mark, is that he has the inside lane.
Looking at Brian Perkins, he's going to take him out a little wider, and that makes Cal Phipps go out even wider as they come off turn number 2, head down the front straightaway. You see Brian Perkins on the right, and just out of the picture, we saw him a second ago as Cal Phipps quite a ways out in about lane number 5. Brian Perkins, end of lap 2 in first place. He lets the boat get a little bit loose. He likes to ride a little bit loose in that boat.
And look who comes by in third place. John Zimmerman in the replacement U-37 doing a great job of staying inside. We have all 6 boats up and running now as Nate Brown got restarted. Mark Evans is running 5th. Nate Brown is 6th as they come by us. Overhead now, you're looking at the Blue Bridge turn. Already the leader has gone through there, the U-21 being pursued by Cal Phipps, but it looks now like it's entirely Brian Perkins' race to win. All he has to do is keep the Albert Lee appliance boat on the water, and he should get the checkered flag.
Yeah, he is 2 or 3 rooster tails ahead of Cal Phipps in the U-37 Spirit of Detroit. We're watching Brian Perkins come through turn number 2 on his third and final time around here in Heat 2A. That's Cal Phipps in the Spirit of Detroit. Follows him through the turn, almost a full turn behind. Coming down to take the checkered flag, Steve Montgomery. Brian Perkins, the U-21, the Miss Albert Lee appliance.
Team stepped up. Owner Greg O'Farrell bought him a new race boat. Brian had done an excellent job of driving the older, heavier boats the team had previously. Now he has a piece that he can really go racing with, and he wins this heat. A very evenly matched heat with Cal Phipps, who comes across in second place. And third place will go to rookie John Zimmerman, driving for Billy and Jane Shoemaker.
Now we got a race coming up here, a drag race off the finish line. It looks like Nate Brown is not going to be able to catch Mark Evans. Mark Evans on the inside as they come across the finish line. He'll finish 5th, and Nate Brown will finish 6th.
Very strange race for Nate Brown. I don't know what happened. He was way off his marks on timing. At the start of the race, he was behind the field. Then he went into the first turn. The boat shut down. We saw a lot of smoke off of it. That may have been Nate trying to restart it, which he eventually did, and scored some points. So it's in the books, Mark. A great heat of racing as we thought it would be, and it sets up our next heat, where we'll have our 2 fastest qualifiers side by side, way on the outside.
So unofficially, we have Brian Perkins in the U-21 Miss Albert Lee Appliance, first place finish and 400 points. The Spirit of Detroit and Cal Phipps, a second place finish for 300 points, 225 points to John Zimmerman, and the Miss Peters and May for a third place finish, fourth place at 169 points to the Matrix Systems U-22 and Mike Webster. Fifth place goes to the FormulaBoats.com U-57. That's Mark Evans behind the wheel, and sixth place to Miss Red Dot Nate Brown in the U-17.
We might have called that as Nate finishing sooner, but he was a lap behind.
True.
So he is just now getting the checkered flag. Nate Brown ran another lap after everyone else had gone back to the pits, and he is just now getting the checkered flag, but he will score 6th place points, and those could be critical when we come down to deciding the field for the winner-take-all championship final heat later today.
As you went by looking at Nate Brown, our viewers probably saw that strobe light right over the cockpit. That is a safety indicator for the boats, and when Nate went dead in the water down in the Blue Bridge turn, he's required to turn that strobe light on to let the officials know that he is okay. If they don't do that, it's very possible that they would stop the race because they would think that he was not okay. So that's why the strobe light was flashing there on the U-17 Miss Red Dot.
So everything went as we thought it would, except we expected a 3-boat race. We thought it would be Nate Brown along with Brian Perkins and Cal Phipps. Nate failed to show, pretty much, and we'll have to ask him what the heck went wrong. As the boats were scoring up for the run down to the start-finish line, Nate was nowhere in sight.
Yeah, he came around, actually came back through the short Unlimited Lights turn. He was way early to start with, thought he would use up some time, and by that time, he was way behind.
Patrick Noland has the winner of Heat 2A down in the pit area. Patrick, take it away.
All right, thank you guys. I'm here with the winner with 400 points in the second heat of the Unlimiteds. Brian Perkins, how'd it feel?
Felt awesome. The Albert Lee boat was amazing that heat. We've really been trying for a race water setup, and I think we found it.
You guys really looked good out there. What was the key for you guys?
A lot of testing and stuff. We went out 6 times on Friday. I kind of messed up yesterday, so we need to get some more timing marks, which we did this morning, and everything paid off.
Really set you up for a good final day here at the Columbia Cup.
I think so.
How does it feel that you got this done?
It feels really good. I mean, I'm more happy for the team. I mean, this is definitely a confidence booster for everybody, and we're preparing for Seattle in 2 weeks, and this is a step in the right direction.
Brian Perkins, driver of the U-21 Miss Albert Lee Appliance and the winner of Heat 2A. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Patrick. You know, Mark, the folks here in the Tri-Cities got an early look at that boat because right after they took delivery, put the paint job on it, put their gear in it, they brought it over to the Tri-Cities for a test session. The weather wasn't this nice back then, but we were really impressed with that boat ride and the way Brian Perkins handled it. And I think he served notice right there that he will be a factor in this and future races.
And they got a few laps in Seattle, too. They went out in early June before the teams headed back east, did some more testing on the boat, tested gearbox and prop combinations and all kinds kinds of things. And they were actually very, very pleased after about 3 runs, and they buttoned the boat up and went back home. So
we expected a good race from Cal Phipps, and we got one. He's very, very aggressive, a good fast driver with a good boat. The yellow and green Spirit of Detroit can go fast, and Cal will drive it that way. Only surprise there was the failure to appear from Nate Brown and the U-17 Miss Red Dot. Who'd have figured that that boat, which potentially could have won that heat, would have the problems he had? And it's hard to tell, Mark, whether he was struggling with something in the setup, the mechanics of the boat, or just way off on his timing, because he certainly was that.
We are at the start-finish line with a little more than 8 minutes to go, and you can see the digital countdown clock. That's the same clock that the drivers look at as they're coming down the straightaway. Now, that's not the only timing device they have, Steve Montgomery. They've got somebody talking in their ear, and they've got a little stopwatch, too.
It's not like the old days when you saw the big stopwatch on the driver's wrist, and that was the way he timed himself. That and this digital clock, and in fact, originally, it was a big pie-shaped clock before the digital age that swung from orange to black and let them know where they were in the early days in the 50s of the racing in Seattle. Now it's mostly communication between the driver and his radio man on the tower near us here in what they call the corral, helping him with the timing and his position on the race course, which begs the question, who was Nate Brown listening to and what went wrong with the U-17? But Mark, we got a great field here for Heat 2B. This is going to be fun.
Let's take a look at the boats that will be in Green Power Incorporated Heat 2B. Again, lanes were drawn, the boats drawn into these heats, and then the drivers selected, but it was the inverse of the finish from the first set of heats. And when there is a tie, for instance, and we'll look at the bottom of this ladder to start with between Dave Villwock and Steve David, they both won their heats yesterday, so the speed at qualifying determined the tiebreaker, and because Dave Villwock was faster, he got the last choice, and that was lane 5 was left. So we've got Jeff Bernard in the U5FormulaBoats.com in lane number 1. He's had a little bit of problems. His engine has not been running as well as today and yesterday as it has been in the past, and so he is in lane number 1. Next to him on the right-hand side will be the U100 Fleury Auto Parts and Greg Hopp. In the middle of this 5-boat field, U7 Graham Trucking with J. Michael Kelly. The Oh Boy Oberto will be in lane number 4, and on the outside, the Spirit of Qatar with Dave Villwock. Lots of speed, especially in those 2 outside lanes.
But you know, Mark, with all the talk about those 2 boats, the winner could be Jeff Bernard. He's in lane 1 with a very good race boat, and the 2 boats we're talking about are way outside of him. They might not be able to get around him. And teammate J. Michael Kelly, very, very quick in lane 3, and Greg Hopp has run very well this year. He has the U100 in lane 2. So the story is going to be who will win the race between Villwock and David and amass the most points in this situation, and will either one of them be able to get around some very fast boats that'll be off to their left at the start. Going to be a very, very interesting heat.
Dave Villwock found himself in this position in Detroit in one of the heats where he was on the outside. He did not have Steve David next to him, but he ran around everybody and won that heat. One of the things that I think will be very, very interesting, every one of these drivers is an expert starter.
Right.
Every one of these guys absolutely can nail the start, and usually does. When you're looking down the list, the only question would be if Jeff Bernard's U5FormulaBoats.com will have the speed and will be able to make that start. We haven't seen him on the race course yet. We're looking at the Graham Trucking U7, where J. Michael Kelly was just pulling away from the dock. But we're at 5 minutes now, but these guys all are experts and they make great starts, so we could see them 5 across right here, and then it's going to be anybody's ballgame.
Every driver in this heat has won races, and I don't mean heats, I mean races where they won the event. Jeff Bernard and J. Michael Kelly both won last year. Greg Hopp had victories for Fred Leland in the Pico American Dream. Steve David and Dave Villwock have won a bunch the last 2 seasons, so we have 5 winners about to go sponson to sponson here, and it's really going to be critical how this first turn shakes out. First of all, we want to get everybody through there cleanly and not break anything. Then we want to watch the leaders as they come onto the backstretch, because that'll be a huge factor. An early lead here, Mark, is going to be a big advantage in this race.
Boats still spread all over the race course. We're looking at Steve David as he heads down the front straightaway. Then we have, let's see who else we're looking at here.
We need to take a break, Mark, so let's do that. And when we come back, we'll be ready to start this very exciting Green Power Incorporated Heat 2B.
Great overhead shot of Dave Villwalk and J. Michael Kelly running up the backstretch. As you can see, our overhead camera. A couple of boats coming through the turn. We are at 2 minutes and 42 seconds away from the start of Heat 2B of the 2010 Lamb Weston Columbia Cup.
There's a look at the newly named and numbered U-96 Spirit of Qatar. In case you have been out of touch, that's the boat that formerly was the bright orange U-16 Miss Elam Plus. Sponsored now by the Qatar Marine Sports Federation. The same folks, Sheikh Hassan bin Jabor Al Thani, who brought the entire fleet over to the Middle East for a very successful inaugural running of the Oryx Cup UIM World Championship. Now they are on board and sponsoring Team Elstrom. You're looking at Greg Hopp going up the backstretch. Greg will be in lane 2. Good spot for him. Hopper, a great starter, as Mark pointed out. He could be our leader, Mark, going into the first turn. That boat is a little older, not quite as wide, doesn't corner as well as some of the newer, lighter boats, but it has tremendous chute speed, so I won't be surprised if Greg Hopp leads the field into the first turn.
Coming down the front straightaway, you're looking at Jeff Bernard. That's the red FormulaBoats.com U5 with the long snorkel intake, and Greg Hopp on the left side of your picture. Just coming through the infield is Dave Villwalk in the Spirit of Qatar, and he'll slide way outside, be coming into your picture in just a moment as you see the boats now starting to form up as they head down to the Blue Bridge turn for one more run all the way around the course and back down to the starting line. 1 minute and 20 seconds left to go.
Watching one of the red boats go through the turn, we should mention one more time for the fans watching on television and on the internet, there are 2 Formula Boats entries in this heat. The way to tell them apart is by the shape of the cowling. The U5 FormulaBoats.com runs what we call the saltwater snorkel all the time. So there is a big pipe sticking out above the head of Jeff Bernard. That's him coming up on the inside right there. Next to him, the teammate with the shorter or more standard air intake. That is J. Michael Kelly in the U7. The boat is sponsored by Graham Trucking. So those two, a little bit hard to tell apart sometimes on the race course. We will try to help you with that. Now, Mark, the field is forming up on the backstretch. Steve David back a bit, but he has plenty of time to make that up, and he's going to come around and try to time the start and try to get ahead of rival Dave Villwalk, who will be off to his right.
2 guys on the outside have the longer way to go. They have to fan out. Now Steve David puts the hammer down and starts to fly through that Blue Bridge, through the western turn, as everybody else kicks up the rooster tails. They've done their timing runs during the testing. They know exactly how long it takes them to get down to the starting line. Here they come. You've got Bernard on the inside, then Greg Hopp, then J. Michael Kelly, and then Steve David. Dave Villwalk lagging back at 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There's the 0.
It looked like a good start on my watch. Villwalk is back a little bit. Steve David has a nice advantage over him going into the first turn. We would expect the leader to be someone over on the inside. Maybe Jeff Bernard in lane 1 can come through here in first place. We see both red boats out front. It is Bernard with the lead at the apex, but we have to watch now as he comes onto the backstretch. Will anybody come with him? Bernard has enough race boat to get ahead of this field, and that's exactly what he's done. Now, I think I see his teammate through the spray. We see Greg Hopp running back there. All boats are in the same rooster tail as they go up the backstretch. The Formula team is out ahead. J. Michael Kelly now right beside Jeff Bernard and is moving out slightly ahead of him.
And we can't see the 2 boats that are outside of them, but that is Steve David and the Spirit of Qatar with Dave Villwalk as well. Top of the race course, turn number 2, first time of 3 times around. Here they all come, Steve, off the buoy. It's Jeff Bernard, leads him down the front straightaway. Right next to him is teammate J. Michael Kelly, and then it's Steve David, and then it's Dave Villwalk. They're all within about 3 boat lengths.
J. Michael Kelly appears to have boat speed on his teammate, and Steve David is catching both of them. The 2 boats that were on the outside, Steve David and Dave Villwalk, are going to fly into this turn very nearly up with the leader. Jeff Bernard not able to hold off his teammate, but now you see him use the inside as an advantage and take the lead back. J. Michael Kelly, a great turn right there as he pulls in right beside his teammate, and you see that they put a little water between them and the boats in 3rd and 4th, using the inside well.
Yes, and they're still leading. It's Kelly leading up the backstretch. Right next to him, 1 boat length behind teammate Jeff Bernard, hidden in the rooster tails behind them. Both Steve David and the Oboy Oberto and the Spirit of Qatar, Dave Villwalk. Second time around, they come to the top end of the race course. This is going to be a great race for another lap and a half.
J. Michael Kelly actually the leader in lane 2, leaving a lot of room for his teammate Jeff Bernard, and of course the boats to his right having a great race. It looks like Villwalk now is pulled up beside Steve David. Villwalk is going to take 3rd place. David will drop back back into fourth. It's Kelly by a nose at the end of that lap.
But they are dead even 3 across. Bernard, Kelly, and Vilwalk as they head down to the Blue Bridge turn. It didn't take much more than about 100 feet past the end of lap 2 for Vilwalk to catch the others, and Steve David now is just a little bit back. We'll see if they get cleanly through that turn.
There comes Vilwalk.
Said earlier, Dave Vilwalk drove around in in Detroit. He drove around everybody from lane number 4.
We saw Steve David in the overhead shot really get caught in a mess between lanes 2 and 3. I believe he got slowed down a little bit by some rough water. Look at Vilwalk go. The U-96 Spirit of Qatar now on the backstretch is leaving the 2 red boats. J. Michael Kelly a little bit of a lead over Jeff Bernard. That's the race for 2nd and 3rd. Steve David is in the Rooster Tails. We can't tell you exactly where he is until they turn toward us. Vilwalk has the lead as they head this way, but he is on the outside. He is the leader, though. He holds the lead coming out of that turn. Here's the checkered flag for Dave Vilwalk in first place. A close race for 2nd, and it's J. Michael Kelly by about a boat length over Jeff Bernard. Steve David runs 4th in the Oh Boy Oberto. What a boat race. When you line them up like that, Mark, exciting stuff is expected. Exciting stuff is exactly what happened.
Well, I think that we got our money's worth for that.
Wow, what a boat
heat.
race.
Yeah, they did. That was a very, very exciting heat of racing. Jeff Bernard taking the lead, battling back and forth with his teammate J. Michael Kelly, Steve David, and Dave Vilwalk on the outside. And finally, on that last lap, Dave Vilwalk just kind of walked away from him on the outside. I think he's shown he can drive around pretty much anybody.
And it's not too early to mention that Dave Vilwalk scores 400 points for that win. 300, 225, 169 for Steve David. I think that's enough of a difference now to put Vilwalk temporarily, at least, in the lead for the National High Point Championship. That's one of the very big issues here today. The National High Points, as well, of course, as being the champion of the Lamb Weston Columbia Cup.
Well, we've got 2A and Heat 2B in the books. Everybody went out. Everybody raced hard. Everybody came back right side up, and that we are very, very thankful for. And officially, our order of finish, Dave Vilwalk in the U-96 Spirit of Qatar, a first-place finish. Second place to J. Michael Kelly in the Graham Trucking by just about a boat length over the U5FormulaBoats.com. And Jeff Bernard, fourth place to Steve David in the Oh Boy Oberto. And we didn't call Greg Hopp's number very much, Steve, but he finished 5th in the Fleury Auto and Truck Parts, the U100.
We expected a great run from the 2 youngsters, Bernard and Kelly, in the red boats, and Mark, they gave us exactly that. Jeff Bernard's boat has not been good to him so far this season. They've had trouble qualifying. They had problems here, going as fast as they wanted to, but he won an event last year. He won in Evansville. We knew the U5 was fast. J. Michael Kelly has looked good this year in the U7, so it's not really surprising that those 2 boats ran as well as they did there in Heat 2B.
Great racing. Steve and I have to catch our breath. We'll be back in just a minute. We've got the winner, Dave Vilwalk of the U-96 Spirit of Qatar down on the deck. Let's go down to Patrick Nolan in the pits.
Wow, Dave, what a race. You come from all the way on the outside to win Heat 2B.
Yeah, that was fun, boy. That, you know, just like Detroit, the guys set the boat up to run well on the outside, and it ran over rough water. Other guys were having trouble getting through this turn up here. We didn't, and that was probably the difference.
What a field, right? You, Steve, a lot of very fast boats, and you come out on top.
Yeah, that's a good one. That sets the tone. Well, now we'll just keep trying to do it right.
What does it take to come from that far outside? You did it in Detroit, you do it here.
Just a lot of speed. We were a little bit back on the start, but we probably had more boat speed at the start, and so I could really thrust it in and out of the first turn and just kept gaining momentum there.
How does it help you that you've gotten through such a tough draw and now you've got the rest of the day really ahead of you?
Well, we'll see. We'll see who we draw. Might not be easy from here on in, so we'll see.
All right, Dave Vilwalk, winner of Heat 2B. Now back to you.